Cameron Herron. Tampa's Cameron Herron started his 24-year sentence in prison for vehicular homicide. And after only a few months, an army of social media accounts from the other side was releasing a digital deluge on anyone involved with the case.
I've suffered horrifically every moment.
The deaths of Jessica Riesinger Robinolt, along with her 21-month-old daughter, were tragic. But 24 years was an unfair sentence for Cameron Herron, who was only 18 at the time of the horrific accident, and they were outraged.
On count one, vehicular homicide, the court's going to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 9 years in Florida State Prison.
But by the end of the month of going viral, there were more than 100,000 tweets about Herron, and possibly far more, with a new one coming every 30 seconds. TikTok said that all the videos related to Cameron Herron were viewed 1.7 billion times.
Count one, vehicular homicide, the court's going to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 9 years in Florida State Prison. On count two, same charge, the court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 15 years Florida State Prison. That'll run consecutive to count one, for a total of 24 years Florida State Prison.
Some of the victims' families deleted or hid their social media accounts to get away from all the messages along with unwanted friend requests. Riesinger Robinolt's family even declined to comment on the record for this story. And as for the possibility that someone paid to make it appear that Cameron Herron has more supporters on social media, Cameron Herron's attorney, John Fitzgibbons, finds it hard to believe. He thinks a video of the sentencing hearing on YouTube made it take off internationally. Kyandria Cook. A Volusia County teen who was accused of luring men to carjack her fate right after her original sentence was thrown out last year.
All right, come on up, Ms. Cook. You get to say the final words.
I just want to say that I'm sorry for being wrong, that her son had to get shot, because I didn't even know he was going to get shot.
The judge initially sentenced Kyandria Cook to 20 years in prison for her conviction on carjacking and battery charges, but it was reported that the outcome was much different. Then, the judge sentenced 19-year-old Kyandria Cook to 11 years in jail, just over half of her original sentence. The judge and prosecutor stated what's changed is her cooperation with the state to get the alleged shooter in the carjacking case in prison.
My boyfriend and his friends get trained to do this. I didn't know until I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I just want to say I want to give this one second chance.
Judge Matthew Foxman then accepted an agreement between the state and the defense. Also, in addition to her 11 years in prison, Cook will face 20 years on probation and must pay restitution to the victims. One 17-year-old victim was shot. The judge stated he considered it a miracle that the victim survived. Given a chance to speak, Cook claimed that she's a changed person who has learned her lesson. She said,
I want to give me this one second chance so I can get out and finish school and I can put my mama proud, because I want to be her first child to bring home a high school diploma.
Samantha Grigg. Brendan Heim, who was 18 at the time of his sentence, is serving 32 to 60 years in prison for felony murder. Tyrell Bredemitz, who was 20, drew a 25 to 38-year sentence for second-degree murder, and while Samantha Grigg, who was 20 at the time of her sentence, was sentenced to 6 to 15 years in prison for manslaughter.
Well, she was the lead singer in a local band with a very bright future, but now a teenager from Saline will spend at least 6 years in prison. A judge sentenced Samantha Grigg today in the murder.
Also, all three convicts are from Saline and were teenagers when the incident happened. The investigation showed he had helped in planning the robbery, demonstrating ways in which Frolka could be knocked unconscious without killing him, and Bath Township Detective Sergeant Gary Smith stated,
if she had been convicted of the original offense, the murder, it would have been a life without the possibility of parole.
The prosecutors then agreed to drop charges of accessory to a felony after the fact, and to receive stolen property in exchange for the no contest plea, police said. And according to court testimony, the suspects hatched a plan to rob Frolka, known to sell drugs, the night before the killing. Fernando Salgado.
18-year-old pled not guilty, that's no surprise, but what else happened in the courtroom certainly was.
An 18-year-old student from California reportedly broke down in hysterical tears in Fontana Superior Court. While the student was arraigned on sexual assault charges. Fernando Salgado calmly pleaded to be not guilty to the 2 charges related to separate classroom incidents at A.B. Miller High School. But still, he exploded when ordered to remain in jail until July 9, as his bail was set at $300,000. Wearing a green jumpsuit, which pointed that he was in protective custody at that time, Salgado's appearance in court followed his teacher, who is a 27-year-old named Emmanuel de la Rosa, in connection with the reported sexual assaults on 2 of the students. The 3 other male students have also been arrested and have been charged, but their names and the charges have not been released because they are minors, said Fontana police. The alleged victims were a 14-year-old boy who was assaulted on June 21, as well as another boy whose age was not released, who was allegedly assaulted.
Student facing lengthy jail sentences and a life branded as sex offenders.
TJ Lane. TJ Lane will be spending the rest of his life in prison for killing 3 students and also wounding 3 others in the Chardon High School cafeteria on February 27, 2012.
Lane was sentenced for killing 3 teenagers in Chardon High School last year, and it was a shocking morning in the courtroom. TJ Lane made quite a statement wearing a t-shirt that had the word killer on it.
Gasps were heard around the courtroom, and some in the gallery began to cry. Bilicic told Lane his rights, and then the youth quickly admitted that he alone was the gunman. Then they asked why Lane said he didn't know.
Shots fired, gunshots, multiple gunshots. 911.
Chardon High School, we need police up here. Was there someone in the building with a gun?
Yeah.
Bilicic stated that Lane told him he just killed a bunch of people. And when Bilicic asked him why, he said, "I don't know." And at another point when asked why, he said, "I don't really understand myself." The deputy said Lane told him he aimed for heads so students wouldn't suffer. Bilicic asked Lane if he was suicidal, if he used drugs or alcohol, or suffered from depression, to which Lane simply replied, "No." From the very beginning of his defense, his case appeared to hinge on his mental state. He had originally pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Then recently, Dr. Philip Resnick, who is a professor of psychiatry at Case Western Reserve University, had testified at a hearing that Lane suffers from severe mental problems, including auditory hallucinations, depression, and involuntary fantasies that fill his mind. With all this, Geauga County Juvenile Court Judge Timothy Grendel found him competent to stand trial in his court. Grendel later transferred the case to Fury's courtroom, where the youth faced adult charges. The second evaluation of Lane determined that he was competent, and authorities stated that the issues which Lane showed in the first report were non-existent in the second report. What are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed today's video and found it interesting, then make sure to leave us a thumbs up, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to always be updated with the most exciting content as soon as it's uploaded. Thanks for watching. See you again soon in another video.